The camera flash made Emma flinch. Not in the photo, Emma. Richard's breath was warm against her ear, but his words were ice. You don't really fit the image we're projecting tonight. His fingers pressed into her elbow, firm enough to leave marks she wouldn't see until tomorrow. He guided her aside like furniture being rearranged, replacing her with Vanessa Reed, his business partner's sharp suit and sharper smile, cut through the ballroom's golden light. Emma stood frozen outside the frame. Outside the light, outside everything, the navy dress Richard had chosen clung to her like a costume she hadn't auditioned for. Around her, crystal chandeliers scattered prismatic light across faces that looked through her rather than at her. Conversations flowed like water around a stone, never quite touching. She watched Richard laugh at a joke she couldn't hear. Watched him place his hand on Vanessa's lower back, same way he used to touch her 6 years ago, when her presence still mattered. The drive home was silent except for his typing. Emma stared at the city lights bleeding past the window, each one a universe she no longer belonged to. Inside the mansion, Richard disappeared into his study without a word. Emma climbed the stairs alone, each step heavier than the last. In their bedroom, she stood before the mirror and saw a woman she barely recognized. The navy dress pooled at her feet. Without it, she felt both exposed and strangely more real. Her phone buzzed. Grace, her grandmother. How was the gala, sweetheart? Emma's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She wanted to type the truth. That she had been disappearing for years, one silence at a time. That tonight, she finally understood what she'd been refusing to see. Instead, it was fine. Talk tomorrow. She moved to the window. In the garden below, her roses bloomed unafraid in the moonlight, taking up space without apology. Something cracked inside her chest. Not freedom. Not yet, but awareness. The bedroom door opened behind her. Richard's footsteps were heavy with exhaustion. I need you to cancel lunch with Grace tomorrow, he said, loosening his tie. We're meeting the Vanderbilts. They prefer couples who present a united front. Emma turned slowly from the window. The moonlight caught her face, and for the first time in years, she didn't try to soften her expression. No, the word hung in the air between them like a gunshot. Richard froze, his tie halfway undone. What did you say? I said no. Emma's voice was steady now, rising from somewhere deep she'd forgotten existed. I'm having lunch with Grace. You can meet the Vanderbilts alone. His face shifted from confusion to anger. Don't be ridiculous, Emma. You don't understand how important this is. You're right. Hey. She met his eyes without flinching. I don't understand. Because you stopped explaining things to me 3 years ago? Around the same time you stopped seeing me at all. Richard's jaw tightened. This is about the photo, isn't it? You're being dramatic. Vanessa has the corporate image we need right now. It wasn't personal. That's the problem, Richard. Emma's laugh was bitter and sharp. Nothing about us is personal anymore. She walked past him toward the guest room, her bare feet silent on cold marble. Where are you going? Emma paused in the doorway, not turning back. Somewhere I can take up space. She closed the door softly behind her, leaving Richard standing alone in the bedroom they'd shared for 6 years, suddenly a stranger in his own carefully curated life, in the guest room. Emma sat on the edge of the bed and felt her hands shake. Not with fear, with something that felt dangerously close to freedom. Her phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't Grace. Unknown number. I saw what happened tonight at the gala. We should talk. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Café Noir. Come alone. Someone who knows what it's like to be erased. Emma stared at the message, her heart hammering against her ribs. Who had been watching? And why did the words feel like both a threat and a lifeline? Café Noir smelled like burnt sugar and secrets. Emma arrived 10 minutes early, wearing the emerald dress Richard had forbidden. Her hands trembled as she ordered coffee she wouldn't drink. The morning had been a battlefield. Richard had tried apologies, then anger, then cold silence when neither worked. She'd left anyway. You came. The voice made her turn. The man standing beside her table was tall, dark-haired, with eyes that held the same hollow recognition she'd seen in her own mirror. He wore an expensive suit that somehow looked borrowed, as if he was playing a role he'd stopped believing in. "Who are you?" Emma's voice was steadier than her pulse. "Dominic Cross." Though he sat without asking, his movements precise and controlled. "I'm the man Vanessa Reed destroyed 3 years ago. And I'm the only person in that ballroom last night who understood exactly what you were feeling." Emma's coffee cup rattled against its saucer. "You were at the gala?" "I'm always at the gala, invisible, watching." His smile was knife-sharp. "Vanessa didn't just take over as Richard's business partner. She was supposed to be mine. We built Cross Technologies together from nothing. Then she found a better opportunity in your husband and erased me from my own company." The bitterness in his words was a mirror of her own. "Why are you telling me this?" Dominic leaned forward, his eyes intense. "Because I've spent 3 years planning how to take back what's mine. And last night, watching Richard push you aside for her, I realized something. We can help each other. Help each other how? Vanessa and Richard are planning a merger. Cross Technologies and Ashford Industries. It'll make them the most powerful corporate couple in the state." His jaw tightened, "unless someone stops them." Emma felt her stomach drop. Richard never mentioned a merger. Of course he didn't. Why would he tell you anything important? Dominic's voice softened, but the edge remained. "You're his beautiful accessory, Emma, the perfect wife who stays quiet and looks good in photos. Except when you don't fit the aesthetic." The words stung because they were true. "What do you want from me?" Dominic pulled a folder from his briefcase and slid it across the table. Inside were photographs. Richard and Vanessa at dinner, at late-night meetings, leaving hotels at dawn. Emma's hands went cold. "I want revenge," Dominic said quietly. "And you want your life back. We can give each other both. By doing what, exactly?" "By making them pay attention. By reminding them what they threw away." His eyes locked on hers. "I know how Vanessa thinks. I know Richard's weaknesses because you do. Together, we become their worst nightmare." Emma stared at the photographs, her heart a war drum. "This looks like you're asking me to help you destroy my husband. I'm asking you to stop being invisible." Dominic's voice was raw now, real. "They made us disappear, Emma. What if we came back different, stronger? What if we showed them exactly what they lost when they stopped seeing us?" The cafe door chimed. Through the window, Emma saw Richard's car parked across the street. He was on his phone, probably calling her. Probably angry she'd defied him. Probably not even worried. "He's looking for you," Dominic observed. Emma stood abruptly, the folder still open between them. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Every instinct screamed to run back to safety, to smallness, to the life where she knew the rules, but safety had slowly suffocated her. "If I do this," she whispered, "there's no going back." Dominic rose to face her. "There never was, Emma. The moment you said no to him last night, you already chose." Richard's car door opened across the street. "Tomorrow night? Charity auction at the Westmore Gallery," Dominic said quickly. "Vanessa will be there. So will the investors. Come with me. Let Richard see you with someone who actually wants you in the frame. That's insane. That's the point." His smile was dangerous and somehow sad. "Make him remember what it felt like to want you. Make him regret every moment he made you small." Emma grabbed her purse, her mind spinning. "I'll think about it." "Don't think too long." Dominic's eyes held hers. "Revenge has an expiration date. So does dignity." She walked toward the exit just as Richard entered. Their eyes met across the crowded cafe. His face shifted from relief to confusion to something darker when he saw Dominic watching from the corner table. "Someone who sees me," she said, and walked past him into the bright afternoon sun. Behind her, she heard Richard call her name. But for the first time in years, she didn't stop. Her phone buzzed in her purse as she walked. A text from Dominic. "Tomorrow night. Wear the emerald dress. Let's show them what invisible looks like when it learns to burn." Emma stood at the crossroads between her small safe life and something dangerous and unknown. Her finger hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed 3 words that felt like jumping off a cliff. "I'll be there." The Westmore Gallery dripped with old money and new ambition. Emma arrived in the emerald dress. Her hair loose instead of pinned, her lipstick red instead of nude. She felt exposed and exhilarated, like she was wearing her own skin for the first time in years. Dominic waited by the champagne fountain, devastating and black. When he saw her, something flickered in his eyes that looked almost like pain. "You wore it. You asked me to. I know." He offered his arm. "But I didn't think you'd actually do it." Emma took his arm, feeling the solid warmth of him. "Maybe you don't know me as well as you think. Maybe I'm learning." They moved through the crowd like a matched set. People noticed. Eyes followed. Conversations paused. Emma felt the weight of attention she'd forgotten existed. And instead of shrinking from it, she stood taller. Then she saw Richard. He stood near the auction podium with Vanessa, both of them laughing at something an investor had said. But his laughter died when he spotted Emma. His eyes traveled from her dress to Dominic's hand on her waist, and his expression shifted into something cold and possessive. "Hey, he sees you now." Dominic murmured near her ear, "I don't care." But her voice betrayed her with a tremor. "Liar." His smile was sharp. "You care. That's why this works." Richard moved toward them through the crowd, Vanessa trailing behind like a sleek shadow. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. "Emma." Richard's voice was controlled but barely. "I didn't know you were coming tonight. You didn't ask." She met his eyes without flinching. "And you are?" Richard's gaze fixed on Dominic with thinly veiled hostility. "Dominic Cross. I believe you know my former partner, Vanessa." Dominic's smile was poisonous politeness. Vanessa's expression froze. "Dominic, what a surprise is it?" Dominic's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on Emma's waist. "I heard about your merger plans. Congratulations. Nothing like building an empire on someone else's foundation." The air between them crackled with barely contained violence. "Emma, we should talk." Richard reached for her arm, but she stepped back. "We're busy, Richard." Dominic was just about to bid on the Rothschild painting, the one I mentioned 3 months ago that you said was too expensive. "I remember. Differently, you don't remember at all." The words came out, sharper than she intended. Richard's jaw tightened. "This is inappropriate. You're my wife, and maybe you should have treated me like one." Emma's voice was steady, but her hands shook. "Instead of a prop you could rearrange when the lighting wasn't right?" Vanessa's laugh was crystalline and cutting. "Richard, let her have her little rebellion. It's adorable, really." Dominic's arm tensed beneath Emma's hand. "Careful, Vanessa. Underestimating people you've dismissed tends to backfire. I'd think you'd remember that from our partnership." "We never had a partnership." Vanessa's smile was acid. "We had you doing the work while I made the connections that mattered. Is that what you tell yourself?" Dominic stepped closer. "Or is that what you tell Richard when you're explaining how you built everything from nothing?" Richard's face darkened. What is he talking about? But before Vanessa could answer, the auctioneer called for attention. The Rothschild painting appeared on the display screen, bathed in golden light. "Shall we?" Dominic guided Emma toward the front. The bidding started at 50,000. Richard bid immediately. Dominic countered. The price climbed like a ladder toward something none of them could afford to lose. Emma watched Richard's face grow harder with each bid. Watched Vanessa whisper urgently in his ear. 200,000. 250. 300. "Dominic, stop," Emma whispered. "This is insane. This was never about the painting." His eyes were dark and turbulent. "This is about showing him you're worth fighting for."
Ow.
350,000. The room had gone silent, watching the battle. Richard's hand was poised to bid again when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went white. Vanessa leaned over to see the screen, and her expression shattered into something like fear. Going once, the auctioneer called. Richard didn't bid. He was staring at his phone like it had just exploded in his hand. Going twice. "What did you do?" Emma turned to Dominic, sudden understanding flooding cold through her veins. His smile was terrible and sad. "I reminded them what happens when you erase the wrong person. Sold to Mr. Cross for $350,000. The applause was deafening, but Emma barely heard it. She was watching Richard and Vanessa push through the crowd toward the exit, both of them on their phones, both of them unraveling. "Dominic, what did you send them?" He turned to face her fully, and in his eyes she saw something that made her stomach drop. Not triumph, regret. The truth about cross technologies. About how Vanessa embezzled funds to start her partnership with Richard. About how their entire merger is built on fraud. Took her hands. "I told you, Emma, this was always about revenge. You used me." The words felt like broken glass in her throat.
No.
His grip tightened. "I gave you freedom. The same way you gave me the courage to finally fight back. By destroying them? By taking back what they stole?" His voice cracked. "From both of us." Police sirens wailed in the distance. Someone screamed. The gallery erupted into chaos as investors realized what was happening. Emma pulled her hands free, backing away. "You didn't want to help me. You wanted a weapon, Emma?" "Wait." But she was already running, the emerald dress streaming behind her like a flag of surrender. She burst through the gallery doors into cold night air, Kay gasping like she'd been underwater. Behind her, Dominic's voice called out, raw and desperate, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I needed you to be brave enough for both of us." Emma kept running until she couldn't hear him anymore. She stopped 3 blocks away, shaking against a brick wall. Her phone buzzed. A message from Richard. "We need to talk. About everything, please." Then another from Dominic. "I know you hate me now. But check your bank account. I put the painting in your name. You earned your freedom, Emma, even if you got it from a monster like me." She looked up at the night sky, tears streaming down her face, caught between 2 men who'd both seen her and both used her, and she didn't know which betrayal hurt more. Her phone rang. Grace's name appeared on the screen. Emma answered with shaking hands. "Grandma." "Sweetheart, where are you?" "I just saw the news." "Are you safe?" "I don't know." Emma's voice broke. "I don't know what I am anymore." "Then come home," Grace said gently. "Not to Richard. Who you were before anyone taught you to disappear." Emma closed her eyes. The night air smelled like rain and endings and something that might be new beginnings if she was brave enough to reach for it. "I'm coming home." She started walking, leaving the chaos and the paintings and the men who'd fought over her like a prize behind. But halfway there, she stopped. Because standing at the street corner, backlit by street lamps and looking like salvation or damnation, was Dominic. "I know I don't deserve another chance," he said quietly, "but I'm asking anyway. Not for revenge. Just for truth. About what we both became in this. About whether 2 broken people can make something whole." Emma stood frozen at the crossroads again. Behind her, Richard's world of controlled perfection and slow suffocation. Ahead, Grace's safety and the woman she used to be. Beside her, Dominic's dangerous honesty and the person she might become. "Why should I trust you?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "You shouldn't." His eyes held hers. "But maybe trust isn't what either of us needs right now. Maybe we just need someone who understands what it costs to stop being invisible." He held out his hand. Emma stared at it, her heart a war drum, her mind screaming warnings her body refused to hear. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Richard's world was collapsing. Her old life was burning, and she had to decide who she wanted to be in the ashes. Emma didn't take Dominic's hand. "I'm not choosing you," she said. "I'm not choosing anyone tonight except myself." She walked past him toward Grace's house, her heels clicking against wet pavement. After a moment, she heard his footsteps following at a distance. Not pushing, just present. Grace's cottage glowed warm against the cold night. The door opened before Emma could knock, and her grandmother pulled her into arms that smelled like lavender and unconditional love. "Sweetheart." Grace held her as she finally broke, sobs tearing through her like storms. "I've got you. You're safe now." Over Grace's shoulder, Emma saw Dominic standing on the sidewalk, hands in pockets, looking lost and young despite his expensive suit. "That him?" Grace whispered. Emma nodded against her shoulder. "The one who helped burn down your marriage, or the one who caused it to burn in the first place?" "Both." "Neither. I don't know anymore." Grace pulled back, studying her granddaughter's face. "Then let's figure it out. But first, hot tea and dry clothes. The rest can wait until you're ready. An hour later, Emma sat wrapped in an old quilt, hands curled around chamomile tea. Grace sat across from her, weathered and wise.
Tell me everything.
So Emma did. About Richard's slow erasure. About Dominic's dangerous offer. About tonight's explosion and the choice she couldn't make. When she finished, Grace was quiet for a long time. Your grandfather made me feel invisible once, she finally said. Not cruelly, just thoughtlessly. He was so focused on building his business that he forgot I was more than the woman who kept his home running. She smiled sadly. I left him for 6 months. Moved in with my sister. Made him remember what my absence felt like. What happened? He came back different. Humbled. We rebuilt something real from the ruins. Grace took Emma's hand. But here's what I learned. You can't save a marriage where only one person wants to be seen. And you can't build something new on someone else's revenge. A knock at the door made them both jump. Grace opened it to reveal Richard, soaked from rain Emma hadn't heard start. His perfect hair dripped into his eyes. His tie was gone. He looked destroyed. Emma, please. His voice cracked. Just 5 minutes. Grace looked at Emma, eyebrow raised. Emma nodded slowly. Richard sat across from her, hands shaking. Up close, she could see he'd been crying. I'm sorry. The words sounded foreign in his mouth. God, Emma, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize what I'd done until tonight. Until I saw you with him. Until I thought I'd lost you forever. You did lose me, Richard. Years ago, you just didn't notice. I know. His face crumpled. The police questioned Vanessa for hours. She admitted everything. The embezzlement. Using me to legitimize the stolen funds. She played me Emma, but I let her because it was easier than actually seeing what was right in front of me. Me, you. He reached for her hands but stopped himself. I made you invisible because you made me comfortable. You never demanded anything. Never pushed back. Never made me work for your love. And I took advantage of that until you disappeared. Emma felt tears slide down her cheeks. You excluded me from a photograph, Richard. In front of everyone. Like I was an embarrassment. I know, and I can't take it back. His voice broke. But I can spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel that way again. If you'll let me. Another knock. Grace opened the door again. Dominic stood there, drenched and desperate. I know I have no right to be here. His eyes found Emma's. But I can't let you go back to him without saying this. Without you knowing the whole truth? What truth? Emma's heart hammered. Dominic stepped inside, water pooling at his feet. I didn't just want revenge on Vanessa. I wanted to save you from becoming what I became. Empty, bitter, erased. I watched you delete her for months. At business dinners, at parties, every time you chose your phone over her eyes, every time you dressed her like a doll instead of seeing her like a person. Richard stood. You don't know anything about my marriage. I know what erasure looks like. Dominic's voice was steel. Vanessa did it to me. You did it to Emma. We're the same, her and me. Collateral damage of people who couldn't see past their own ambition. That's not fair, Richard said, but his voice wavered. Nothing about this is fair. Dominic looked at Emma. I used you. I admit it. I saw your pain and weaponized it because I needed someone to understand mine. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about revenge. His voice dropped to a whisper. It started being about you. About hoping maybe two broken people could help each other heal instead of just bleeding together. Emma stood, the quilt falling away. You're both asking me to choose. But neither of you asked what I want. What do you want? Grace asked gently. Emma looked at Richard with his perfect remorse. At Dominic with his dangerous honesty. At Grace with her patient wisdom. I want time. Her voice was steady. Time to remember who I am without anyone telling me. Time to be alone without feeling lonely. Time to take up space without apologizing for it. Emma, Richard started. No. She held up her hand. You don't get to tell me what I need anymore. Neither of you do. She looked between them. I spent 6 years disappearing. It's going to take more than one night of chaos to find myself again. How long? Dominic asked quietly. I don't know. Maybe weeks. Maybe months. Maybe forever. She met his eyes. Maybe by the time I figure out who I am, I won't need either of you anymore. Richard's face crumpled. So that's it? You're just walking away? No. Emma's smile was sad and strong. I'm walking toward something. Finally, I just need to figure out what that is. She moved to the door, grabbing Grace's coat. Where are you going? Grace asked. Anywhere. Everywhere. Emma looked at her grandmother. Is the beach house still empty? Grace smiled. Keys are on the hook. Emma took them, metal cold against her palm. She turned to face both men one last time. If you really love me, you'll let me go. Let me figure out who Emma Sterling is when she's not being diminished or weaponized or saved. Her voice softened. And maybe, if you both do the work to become better men, we can try this again. All of us. Honest this time. And if we can't wait. Richard's voice was broken. Then you never really loved me at all. Emma opened the door. You just loved the idea of owning me. She walked out into the rain, feeling it wash away makeup and pretense and years of being small. Behind her, she heard Dominic's voice. I'll wait. However long it takes. I'll do the work. I'll become someone worthy of you. And Richard's response. So will I, even if it means losing you forever to learn how I should have loved you all along. Emma didn't turn around. She got into Grace's old car and drove toward the coast. Toward salt air and solitude and the terrifying freedom of being finally alone with herself. The road stretched dark and endless ahead, but for the first time in years. Emma wasn't afraid of where it led. She was afraid she might like it. 3 months passed. Emma didn't call, didn't text, didn't check social media. She worked at a small bookstore by the beach, learned to paint, grew her hair long, laughed with strangers who didn't know her story, became someone she actually liked looking at in the mirror. And then one morning, standing on the shore watching sunrise, paint the sky in possible colors, her phone buzzed. 2 messages. One from Richard. I signed the divorce papers. You're free. I'm sorry it took me losing you to become the man you deserved. I hope you find everything you're looking for. One from Dominic. I sold Cross Technologies. Gave half to charity. I'm teaching computer science to kids who think they're invisible. You taught me that revenge doesn't heal, but becoming someone better might. Thank you for showing me how. Emma stared at the messages for a long time. Then she typed back to both. Thank you for letting me go. It was the most loving thing either of you ever did. She put the phone away and walked back to her small rental house. There was a package on the doorstep. Inside, wrapped in brown paper, was the Rothschild painting and a note in Dominic's handwriting. This always belonged to you. The woman brave enough to stop being invisible. Build something beautiful with your freedom. Emma hung the painting above her desk where she'd been writing. Stories about women who learned to take up space, about men who learned to see them, about the messy, complicated truth that sometimes love means learning to let go. The sunrise spilled through her window, painting everything gold. And for the first time in years, Emma Sterling felt like she was exactly where she belonged, alone, free, whole, ready for whatever came next. But first, she had a story to finish. 8 months later, Emma stood in the gallery that displayed her paintings, surrounded by faces that actually saw her. Her art filled the walls with color and fury and beauty. Each piece told a story of resurrection, of women who refused to stay small. Critics called her work devastatingly honest. Collectors bid against each other for pieces that felt like looking into a mirror they'd been avoiding. She wore red tonight, unapologetic crimson that demanded attention without asking permission. Emma Sterling. A journalist approached with hungry eyes. Your collection sold out in 3 hours. What inspired this transformation? Emma smiled, the kind that held secrets and strength. I learned that being invisible isn't the same as being gone. Sometimes we just need to remember how to burn. Across the room, Grace beamed with pride. The gallery door opened. Emma's heart stuttered. Richard entered first. He looked different. Softer somehow. Less polished. More real. His eyes found hers across the crowd, and he smiled, sad and genuine. Behind him, Dominic Leonard, steadier, carrying himself like a man, who'd finally learned to live in his own skin. They approached together. Two ghosts from her past made flesh. "We're not here to ask for anything," Richard said quietly. "We just wanted to see what you built. Without us, it's extraordinary." Dominic's eyes traced the paintings with something like reverence. "You turned pain into something people will remember for generations." Emma felt her throat tighten. "Why are you really here?" Richard and Dominic exchanged a glance. Some communication passed between them that Emma couldn't read. "Because we need to tell you something," Richard said. "Together, the truth we both avoided." Dominic stepped forward. "That night at the gallery, when everything exploded, we both blamed each other, fought, nearly destroyed what was left of our lives." He paused. "But then we started talking. Really talking. About what we'd done to ourselves by trying to control everything. By making people small so we could feel big. We became friends," Richard continued. "Strange as it sounds, we helped each other unlearn everything that made us men who could erase the people we claimed to love." Yes. His voice cracked. "You saved us, Emma, by refusing to let us save you." Emma felt tears threaten but held them back. "You didn't come here for closure." "No." Dominic's smile was gentle. "We came to say thank you, and to ask if maybe someday, when you're ready, we could learn to be in your life as friends. Not lovers. Not saviors. Just people who care about you without needing to own you." "And if I'm never ready?" Emma asked. "Then we'll understand." Richard's eyes held hers. "Because the greatest thing you taught us was that loving someone means respecting their choice to walk away." The gallery lights caught the gold in Emma's hair. She felt Grace watching from across the room. Felt the weight of her paintings bearing witness. Felt the person she'd become standing steady in her own skin. "I'm not the same woman you knew," she said softly. "We know." Dominic's voice was rough with emotion. "That's what makes you magnificent." "But maybe," Richard added carefully, "someday the woman you've become might have space for the men we're trying to be. Not in your bed. Not in your life the way we were before. Just somewhere in your world. As proof that people can change when they finally learn to listen." Emma studied them both. Saw the work they'd done in the shadows beneath their eyes. In the way they stood without needing to dominate space. In the quiet way they waited for her answer without demanding one. "Ask me again in a year," she said finally. "If you still want to be part of my life after I've lived more of it without you. After I've proven to myself I don't need anyone to make me whole." "We'll wait," they said together. Emma smiled. "Good, because I'm done being collected. If you want to know me, you'll have to earn it. The real me. Not the small version. Not the weapon. Not the muse. Just Emma. The woman who learned to burn," Dominic said. "The woman who refused to stay gone," Richard added. "No," Emma's voice was strong and sure. "The woman who learned that being seen means first learning to see yourself." She turned back to her paintings. To the life she'd built from ashes and anger and art. Behind her, she heard their footsteps retreating, giving her space. Giving her freedom at the door, Dominic paused. "Emma?" She looked back. "That painting you did. The woman standing in flames with her arms open." His eyes shone. "That's the Emma I should have seen from the beginning." "I'm sorry it took losing you to find my own eyes," Richard nodded. "We both are." They left together, two men learning to walk without crushing anything beneath their feet. Grace appeared at Emma's side, slipping her arm through her granddaughter's. "You did good, sweetheart, did I?" Emma's voice wavered. "They're different now. Maybe I should have given them another chance. Maybe in a year you will. Maybe in 2. Maybe never." Grace squeezed her arm. "But the fact that you can choose, that you held your ground even when they offered everything you once wanted, that's how I know you're free." Emma leaned into her grandmother's warmth. Around them, people laughed, and drank champagne and spoke about her art like it mattered. She'd spent so long being invisible that this felt like standing in the sun after years in shadow. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Saw your exhibit online. Your work makes me feel less alone. Thank you for being brave enough to burn. From another woman learning to take up space, Emma smiled and typed back, "We all have to start somewhere. Keep burning." She looked at the Rothschild painting hanging in the place of honor. The one that had started everything? That had been a prize in a battle that taught her she was never meant to be one, only to be seen, respected, allowed to exist in her full, complicated truth. The gallery lights dimmed. The crowd thinned. Grace went home with promises to make breakfast tomorrow. Emma stood alone among her paintings, feeling the weight and wonder of her own presence. No one was pushing her aside. No one was weaponizing her pain. No one was telling her what to wear or how to stand, when to disappear. She was just Emma Sterling, artist, survivor, Phoenix woman who learned to burn. And in the reflection of the gallery window, backlit by city lights and her own fierce color, she saw exactly what she'd been searching for all along herself, whole, undiminished, free. The night stretched ahead full of possibility. Maybe someday Richard and Dominic would earn their way back into her world. Maybe they wouldn't. Maybe she'd meet someone new who understood from the beginning that she was meant to be seen, not saved, or maybe she'd keep walking alone for a while longer, learning to love the sound of her own footsteps without anyone else's keeping time. Either way, Emma Sterling was no longer invisible. She had learned to take up space, and she was never going back to being small again. Outside, the city hummed with 1,000 stories of people finding themselves, losing themselves, becoming themselves. Emma locked the gallery door and stepped into the night, her red dress aflame against the darkness. Somewhere behind her, the past waited patiently for her to decide if it deserved a future. Somewhere ahead, the rest of her life spread out like a canvas she finally had permission to fill with whatever colors she chose. And in that moment, walking between what was and what could be, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not happiness. Not quite yet, but something better. Hope. And the absolute certainty that she would never again let anyone make her disappear. She had learned to burn and fire. Once lit, refuses to be extinguished. The end.